Hello everybody, it is me, Teddy, and I am back with another reading video. Tonight's video will be a continuation of sorts from my other work, Lost Buttons, which if you have not listened to or read yet, I would advise you do so before listening to this video, just so it makes sense. But without further ado, let's get nice and cozy, grab a blanket, grab a snack and grab a stuffy, and get settled down as we go on tonight's adventure. Are you ready? Let's begin. Tonight's story is called The Tale of Mr.Paws. The rain drums softly against Ellie's bedroom window as the storm outside rolled across the night sky, rumbling and grumbling like a giant turning over in his sleep. Every so often a flash of lightning lit up the room, just for a brief moment, casting shadows of toys and tree branches across the walls before fading away again. Ellie was fast asleep beneath her blankets, while at the foot of the bed, Mr. Paws lay curled into a fluffy ball, with Buttons sat leaning against the pillow beside him. The room felt cosy, warm and safe, especially compared to the cold, rainy world outside. Another crack of thunder echoed across the night sky, causing Buttons to pull the knitted blanket a little higher around his shoulders, his face hooded on one side. "I don't mind admitting it," he said quietly. "Thunderstorms still make me a little nervous." Mr. Paws lifted his head and chuckled. "You? Nervous? You're the teddy bear who crossed an entire park in the dark." Buttons smiled. Well, perhaps only a tiny bit nervous." A bright flash lit the room, causing Buttons to cover his ears with his soft padded paws ready for the big bang. "I remember back when I lived with my old owners, they would huddle around the fireplace and tell each other stories during storms like this," said Mr. Paws. "How's about you tell me one, Buttons? I'm sure you've had lots of adventures with Ellie," he continued, hoping to ease Buttons' mind. Buttons removed his paws slowly away from his ears and shrugged a little hesitantly. "I guess we have done, yes." Buttons leaned into the pillow to get comfy before telling Mr. Paws about the time he accidentally fell into a washing basket, ending up in the world of dirty clothes, and how Ellie went on a mission to find him. And that one afternoon he got stuck in a tree while pretending to be a pirate captain. Mr. Paws listened happily, resting his head on the bed. Then Buttons tilted his head mid-story. You know," he said, you've never really said much about your life before we found you." Mr. Paws grew quiet. The sound of the rain tapping gently against the glass filled the room again, as he simply watched the droplets race down the window. Would you like to hear it?" he asked softly. Buttons nodded. Mr. Paws smiled. "Well then, I'll tell you." He moved closer to Buttons and settled comfortably into the blanket and began. "Long before I became Mr. Paws, I was just a puppy. There was my mother, my brothers, sisters and I in a little house where an elderly kind man looked after us, keeping us safe and warm. Everything seemed so much bigger back then. Our water bowls were like giant ponds, and the blankets and pillows were, oh well, they were like fluffy mountains which we could spend hours exploring and climbing. And the world outside the windows looked even bigger. I remember while we were playing one morning, a family arrived. Not as big as mine, but there was a mother, a father, and a little boy named Oliver. Thinking back, Oliver couldn't have been much more older than Ellie. The moment he saw me, his eyes grew wide. "That one," he shouted excitedly. "The floppy-eared one." The old man laughed and picked me up gently, placing me into Oliver's arms. I wagged my tail so much it felt like I could fly. Oliver scooped me up into his arms and hugged me tightly to his chest. I still remember how happy he looked. And on that very day, I went home with him. Life with Oliver was so wonderful. The house smelled of toast and bacon every morning, and warm dinners every evening. I can still smell those tasty sausages. Mr. Paws sniffed the air and smiled to himself, with his eyes closed, and continued. Well, Oliver and I did everything together. We chased balls through the garden, we built blanket forts in the living room. Sometimes Oliver would even pretend he was a brave explorer crossing dangerous jungles, and I would be his faithful companion. At night I slept beside his bed. Whenever he had a bad dream, I would climb up beside him and rest my head on his lap. And whenever I felt scared, he would scratch behind my ear and tell me everything would be alright. The years passed and, well, I grew bigger and Oliver grew taller, but we remained best friends. Every afternoon I would wait by the front door for him to return home from school, and the moment I heard his footsteps I would race across the house so quickly my paws would slide across the floor. Oliver always laughed when that happened. What I wouldn't do to hear that laugh again. For a long time life felt perfect. But as the years rolled on, things slowly began to change. At first, I didn't really notice. Oliver started spending more time with friends, and then came football practice and music lessons and long evenings away from home. He wasn't trying to be unkind, he was simply growing up, but then the games became less frequent. The walks became shorter. Sometimes I'd bring my favourite tennis ball and he would give me half a smile. Not now, buddy. So I would wait and wait and wait a little longer. One winter evening I lay beside the sofa while Oliver sat staring at a glowing screen. I nudged my ball towards him. It rolled gently, stopping against his shoe, and he looked down, and for a moment I thought we might play, but instead he picked up the ball and placed it on the shelf. "I'm busy." His voice wasn't angry, it was distracted, and somehow it made my tail stop wagging. That was the first time I felt lonely. Didn't feel the same anymore. Buttons could see that Mr. Paws was sad and reached out his arm and rubbed Mr. Paws' side as he continued. Well, then again, the years continued passing and Oliver became a teenager, then almost a grown man. And by this time it was time for the family to move to a smaller house. There wasn't much room anymore. Not like the old house with lots of rooms or a big garden. Everyone seemed busy all the time. Sometimes entire days passed without anyone throwing a ball, without anyone scratching my ears, without anyone sitting beside me. I still loved them more than anything, but it felt as though they were slowly forgetting how much they once loved me, you know? One afternoon, Oliver's parents sat talking quietly at the kitchen table. As a dog, I couldn't quite understand every word, but I heard enough. Too much responsibility, not enough time. Poor thing spends all day alone. I walked over and rested my head on Oliver's knee. He just looked down at me. For a moment, I saw the little boy he used to be, the one who picked me up all those years ago, the one who had promised we'd always stay together. He scratched behind my ears, then looked away. A few days later, they took me for a car ride. At first, I was excited. I loved car rides, I did. The window was slightly open and the breeze carried thousands of wonderful smells, freshly cooked grass, flowers, rain. The adventures we had previously. Eventually, we arrived at a large park. The very same park where a certain teddy bear would one day become lost. Well, we walked together for a while. Oliver threw a stick for me and I chased it, which I loved. I absolutely loved it. Feeling the breeze run past my ears and through my coat. I brought it back to Oliver, and he threw it again and again. And for a little while, everything felt like old times again. I remember feeling so happy, so hopeful. Maybe things were going back to the way they used to be. You know, maybe we would play together every day again. Maybe. Mr. Paws paused. His voice grew quieter. Then what? Then what happened? Buttons whispered. The old dog looked toward the rain streaked windows. Well, when I brought the last stick back, he said softly. When I brought the last stick back, he said softly, they were gone. Button's eyes widened. Gone? Mr. Paws nodded. The bench was empty. The rain outside Ellie's window seemed much louder now. I searched everywhere. His voice trembled slightly. I ran across the grass and I looked beside the pond. I searched every path, but they were gone. Button slowly lowered his head. And they didn't come back? Mr. Paws gave a small smile. No. The room fell silent again. Even the thunder seemed far away. I waited for hours, days, weeks even, Mr. Paws continued. Every morning I watched the park entrance, watching other families come in and out. Every evening I listened for their car. They never returned. Buttons felt a large lump form in his throat. That must have hurt. Mr. Paws nodded. It did. But something happened that I didn't quite expect. What was that? The park became home. Buttons blinked slowly, questionably, as Mr. Paws smiled warmly. The robins shared crumbs with me, and the ducks waddled over to say hello, and the squirrels even stopped being afraid of me. Little by little, I discovered that even though I had lost one family, the world still had room for me. He looked across the room towards sleeping Ellie. And then one night I met a frightened little teddy bear sitting beneath an oak tree. Buttons smiled. Let me guess, he wouldn't stop talking. That's true. Mr. Paws laughed. And because of that, teddy bear, I found my way here. The two of them looked over at Ellie sleeping peacefully beneath her blankets, her head resting on her pillow, poking out of the duvet a little, with one foot gently rested against Mr. Paws. He wagged his tail gently. You know something? He said. Well, asked Buttons. I used to think losing my first family was the end of my story. But stories don't end when we think they will. Mr. Paws looked at Ellie and smiled. So sometimes I simply turn the page. Outside, the storm began to fade and the thunder drifted further into the distance. The rain softened to a gentle patter as Buttons yawned, followed by Mr. Paws, and soon both of them settled down beneath Ellie's blanket, and as sleep slowly carried them away, Buttons thought about everything Mr. Paws had shared. How people could change, how hearts could drift apart, how loneliness could feel enormous, but most of all, how love could sometimes find its way back when you least expected it. And at the foot of the bed, Mr. Paws was already snoring softly, and for the first time in many years, the old dog dreamed not about being left behind, but about being found. The end. I hope you enjoyed this story, and I hope you sleep very, very well. Good night.